Finding angle measures of an isosceles triangle given angles with variables. All right, so the other topic for this week had to do with isosceles triangles and equilateral triangles. So these were actually a bit of the notes that we wrote from that first topic. So the first thing is just to define isosceles triangle. So an isosceles triangle has two or more sides that are congruent. And I just use symbols here, so triangle instead of the word triangle. And the sub-property of that is also two or more angles are congruent. So if we're given a triangle like this, and they mark that the sides are congruent, immediately I can go across like this and say that the angles are congruent, opposite angles like this. I can do the same thing for angles. If they tell me these two angles are congruent, like this, woo. I want to erase that one. Then I can immediately go to opposite sides like that. So it's kind of an interchangeable thing here. You can go back and forth. I don't think we're going to necessarily need to do that too much other than to understand the property. If they give you the congruent marks, you can, the opposite is congruent. So if it's the angles, the opposite sides are congruent. If it's the sides, the opposite angles are congruent. So you can kind of go back and forth. All right. So what they tell us here is, suppose the triangle LMN is isosceles with a base MN. Specifically, the base is important because when I go opposites like this, these are called the base angles. So even if the triangle is upside down like this, we still call these the base angles, even though we think of base as kind of the bottom of something. We call the base angles are just the ones that are opposite the congruent sides, okay? So that's all they want. They want to make sure you understand what the base is. Suppose also that angle M, the measure of angle N equals 2x plus 31, and the measure of angle M equals 4x plus 5. And that's how you say this, the measure of angle M. So that's all that means, that little M in front there. All right, so if we want to know what these two are equal to, and I'm going to draw this triangle out here, and they want to find the degree of each angle in the triangle. So there is a bit of work to do on this one. So N, M. And then this one is 2x plus 31, and this one is 4x plus 5. And I just threw it in the triangle here. Sorry, this is an x that looks like two plus signs. So right away, I can go opposite, and I know that these two angles have to be equal to each other. So I can immediately start setting 2x plus 31 equal to 4x plus 5, because I know those are my base angles. They have to be equal to each other. So I can set them equal as long as there's only one variable. So I know there's an x on both sides, but by one variable, I mean there isn't an x and a y and a z. They're both x. So we can solve for this because there's only one variable present. There's only an x on both sides. So what I want to start doing is bringing the variables together. So I'm going to subtract this 2x over to the right side here. Bring 31 down. 2x minus 2x, that cancels. Equals, so make sure you bring down the 31, you bring down the equal sign. I have so many students forget to just bring down the pieces they haven't used. Make sure you bring down the pieces you haven't used so that you don't get confused on what to do next. So you have 31 equals, and then we're going to take 4x and we're going to subtract 2x. So we end up with 2x, and we bring down plus 5 here. So now we want to bring these constants, just these regular numbers together, alrighty? So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. 31 minus 5, we get, what do we get there? 26. Equals, we bring down the equal sign, and we bring down the 2x. We haven't done anything with that yet. And then 5 minus 5, that cancels. The last thing to do to figure out what x is to divide by 2, because 2x means I'm multiplying, I want to divide. So I end up with 13, because 26 divided by 2 is 13, equals x, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we just bring down the x, because we don't have to say 1x. It's the same thing as just saying x. But they didn't ask us what x was. They said find the degree measure of each angle. So we want to know, what is angle L equal? What is angle N equal? And what does angle M equal? We want to know what all three of these equal. So let's go ahead and go back. We're going to find one of these. So we just pick one of the two bottom ones, doesn't matter which one, because they have to equal the same thing. So 4x plus 5. Instead of x, I'm going to put in what I just found for x, which was 13. And then I'm going to multiply. So what do we get? 13 times 4, we get 12, 52, I believe, plus 5. And then we just add 5 and we get 57 degrees. So I know N and M are 57 degrees. Remember, they both have to equal the same thing. And if you weren't 100% sure on that one, you could always take, oh, there shouldn't be an A down here. That was from my last problem here. 2x plus 31. So I can go 2 times 13 plus 31. So I'd end up with 26 plus 31. If I add it, I get 7 and 5. So look at that. I ended up with the same one. So it wouldn't have mattered which one of the two bottom ones you picked. Now it's a really good check to do both, just to make sure that this math, to begin with, finding the x, didn't go wrong. Because if you get a different answer here, that means go back to this one and check your math. Something went wrong here. So this is definitely a good check, just to make sure everything went right. So now I know that this is 57 and this is 57. Remember, the angles of a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So if I know they have to add up to 180 degrees, and I'm using 57 and 57, I'm going to add those two together real quick. So I end up with 14 and 11. So I'm using 114 degrees. And sorry, I'm running out of room a little bit here. I know they all add up to 180. So I'm going to subtract 114 here. So I'm going to go minus and borrow. We have 6 and 6. So we end up with 66 degrees in here. So these should be our three answers. We go to the bottom, we have 66, 57, and 57. So we do have to do a bit of work here. So this is one problem. We have to find x, then we have to plug it in. We should plug it in a second time as a check, just to make sure we get the same answer. And then we also have to use the triangle angle sum theorem, which is just that idea that all the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, because we need to know what that third angle is. All right, so let's go ahead and try this all out. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, I'm going to try to do this without erasing my notes here up the top. We don't really need these notes anymore, so just make sure that you write these down, but we don't necessarily need them written for the next page, so I'm going to take them away just so I have my full screen here. And then I'm going to click Start. All right, so for this one, we have this triangle here, and it's angle DCE. This angle is 2x plus 38. And this angle here is 3x plus 55. All right. And then they also give us these congruent marks here. So what we know from an isosceles triangle, if we have two congruent sides, and they're telling us, suppose that it's an isosceles triangle with this is the base, we know that the opposite side, or the angles opposite the sides that are congruent, have to be equal. So if this side is 2x plus 38, then this angle is also 2x plus 38. So do we have all three angles now? We do. In a kind of funky way, but we do. We have all three angles. So what we want to start doing now is adding them together. Let's see, I'll use orange so it doesn't get too crazy here. So I want to add these together. So I have 2x plus 38 plus 2x plus 38 plus 3x plus 55. Why am I adding them all together? And I haven't actually said this yet. What do all the angles of a triangle have to add up to? 180 degrees. If I have all three angles, even though, again, they're giving it to us in a funky way, I have all three, and I'm only using x, so I can solve this once I simplify. So first, I want to add my like terms here. So I have 2x, and 3x, so I have 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7x, And then I also have all these constants that I want to add together. So I have, and I'm just going to do this down here, 38, 38, and I also have 55. So if we add these straight down, we get 16, 21, and then we get 6, 7, 8, and then 13 there. So we have 113 equals 180. And I did this kind of quick. If you need a calculator, they are allowing a calculator over here. So you can go 38 plus 38 plus 55. That is perfectly fine. You still get 131. This is just me doing it real quick on paper because I do like to write it out. All right, so now we're going to subtract 131 from both sides. Remember, this is just the basic rules of solving an equation. So we're always trying to undo what's being done. And we first do addition and subtraction, mainly because it's easier, not because you can't do multiplication division first, but that creates a tons of fractions, and we don't want to have to create more fractions than we need to. So we bring down 7x because we haven't done anything with it yet. 131 minus 131 goes away. Also bring down the equal sign. Don't forget that equal sign. And then we're going to subtract here. So we're going to borrow. We get 9 and 4. So we have 49. Last step we're going to do to find x. We need to move this 7 away. It's being multiplied. So we divide both sides. 7 divided by 7 cancels. Becomes 1, not 0. This becomes 0 because it's addition, subtraction. This becomes 1 because it's multiplication, division. So we bring down our x, and that equals 7, because 49 divided by 7 is 7. Did they ask us what x was? No. They want to know what is angle C, angle D, and angle E. Sorry, I've got the little measure of in front here. So they asked us what all three angles are. So I need to go back in, take this 7 and plug it in here. So I have 2x plus 38. I'm going to start right here. Instead of x, I'm going to put 7 because I know x equals 7 now. So I have 14 plus 38. Let's see, what do we get here? We get 12. I'm going to write it in this spot here. So we get 12. I don't want to be confusing here. I was kind of doing it sideways here, but we get 12 and then 5, like that. So we get 52 when we add these two together. So 52 degrees for angle D. Remember, angle D, that was that crisscrossy thing. So angle D is also equal to angle C. C should also be 52 degrees because they're the exact same thing. 2x plus 38, 2x plus 38. I don't have to plug that in twice to check it. If I get different numbers here, that means that I multiplied and added differently on these two. So there should be no way to get different numbers on those. All right, I'm going to use this 3x plus 55. So you can plug it in if you want. I'll give you two options here. You can plug in the 7. 3 times 7 plus 55. We get 21 plus 55, and we go, I'm just going to come down here again, 55 plus 21. We get 6, and we get 7. So we get 76 degrees. Or I can say, I know they add up to 180 degrees, and I'm just going to subtract what I'm already using, which was 104, because 52 plus 52 is 104. And I get 76 degrees. So either way, I got 76 degrees. I can plug it in, or I can try the triangle angle sum theorem. This is actually a good check to make sure that they do, in fact, all add up to 180 degrees. Because if I ended up with a different number from plugging it in and doing the 180 degrees, something went wrong in the math here, and I need to go back and check. All right, so let's go ahead and check this. We have 52 and 52 and 26. All right, check. And we got it right. Okay, I'm going to give myself a new page here instead of erasing. A little quicker there. All right, next. So I'm going to go back to blue to draw my triangle. For whatever reason, I like blue for my triangle. Whoops. I meant to go. And I still didn't quite land where I wanted to land there. Silly drawing program. All right, they're also giving us congruent marks here. And then they tell us that this one is 5x plus 34. And this angle is 4x plus 39. All right, so we have these two angles. They also told us in the explanation here, suppose the triangle VWX is isosceles, which we can see they've marked it as congruent for the two sides, with the base of XV. This is the base. The reason they're identifying that is so that you remember when you go opposites, these two angles are congruent. So they already told us what these two angles equal. Not straight out, but they told us this one is 5x plus 34. This one is 4x plus 39. We just need to figure out what does x equal. And then don't forget, we're also going to have to find w. So I'm going to write this out over here. Let's see. We want to know v, w, and x. So don't forget, this is what we need to answer over here. All right, so let's start with the two angles we know are congruent. 5x plus 34 equals 4x plus 39. We're not adding them all together and equal to 180 like we did last time because we're not given all of the angles. Last time they gave us all three angles, so we had to use triangle angle sum theorem first. This time they're only giving us two, and they're giving us the two that are equal. So instead of adding them together and having it equal to 180, I just already know these two angles have to equal each other. So we're going to start bringing our variables together. And I always do this in a way to make a positive. So I look at which one's bigger, and I want to leave that one alone. I want to move the smaller one. That way, when I subtract here, 5 minus 4, I get a positive x. If I were to have moved the 5 to the right side, I would have ended up with a negative x. It's just my little way of not having to deal with negatives when I don't have to. So don't forget to bring 34 and equal sign down. 4x minus 4x cancels, and then we bring 39 down also. So the last step here is to just move the 34 over, bring x down, 34 minus 34 cancels, equals, and we just subtract here. 39 minus 34 is 5. Remember, they don't want to know what x is. We need to plug it in. So let's see, I'll do this in gray so it's a little different. So I'm just going to go with this first one on this side. 5x plus 34. I know what x is, so I'm going to go 5 times 5 plus 34. And I'll grab the calculator this time just so I'm not writing so much out here. So I have 5 times 5 plus 34. So you can put it all in at the same time. You can go 5 times 5 equals, and then plus 34. It's perfectly fine. As long as you can see it's 5 times 5 plus 34, it will work it out correctly for you. So I know this is 59 degrees. And this one was x. Which other one should be 59 degrees also? V, that's our other base angle. So again, we can check it real quick just to make sure nothing went wrong in our math over here in the orange part. So we know x is 5 plus 39. So let's go 4 times 5 plus 39. And we get 59 again. Perfect. That's what we wanted to get. Our last step is we need W. What do they all have to add up to? They all have to add up to 180 degrees. We know that. All triangles add up to 180 degrees. We need to look at what are we using here. So if we go 59 plus 59, I'm just adding them together, we're already using 118 degrees. Okay? So we just want to go 180 minus 118. That tells us what's left over. 62 degrees is left over of the 180 to fit into angle W here. All right, let's go ahead and click check. So we have 59, 62, and 59 again. So for these ones, because we're dealing with isosceles triangles, 2 of your answers should always be the same. And then 1 should be different. Unless they throw an equilateral triangle at us, but so far they haven't. All right, one more. Let's go ahead and just give ourselves a new book here. Don't save. Okay. So I'm going to go back to blue here to draw my triangle. I have E, G, F. This angle here is 4x minus 4. They give me 2 tick marks, and they also give me this one here is 2x plus 38. All right. So in the description they tell us, suppose that triangle EFG is isosceles with base FG. So they've told us this is the base specifically. So you remember when you go across from the congruent sides, these are the two angles that equal each other. So if I know these two equal each other, and they gave me this one also equals 4x minus 4. So this is another one of those ones where they gave us all three angles. I know it's in a funky way. They're not telling us what the angles equal, but they're giving us all three, and we only have x's. So that means that we can take all of these and add them together. So let's see. I'm going to do that down here just so I have a little bit more room. So I have 2x plus 38 plus 4x minus 4 plus 4x minus 4. Remember, what do they all add up to? 180 degrees. All right, so now we're just going to start combining like terms here. So we have 2 plus 4 plus 4, because they all have an x. So that's 8, 9, 10. And then we have 38, 4, and 4. Remember, these are minus 4, minus 4. So I'm actually going to be taking 8 away because we combine the negatives and we subtract that from the positive. So I have 38 minus 4, that would get me 34. And then 34 minus another 4 would get me 30. So make sure you're paying attention to the negatives when you're doing this. All right, and then that equals 180. Now we have a much more simplified equation here, and we can start solving it. So I'm going to move 30 to the right side, and bring 10x down. 30 minus 30 cancels. Don't forget to bring your equal sign down. 180 minus 30 is 150. Last step to find x. It said x, so I wrote x, is to divide by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So we just bring our x down, and that equals 150 divided by 10. And you can always do this whenever you have zeros in the end. If you cross it off, that'll actually show you what the answer should be. 150 divided by 10, well, that's 15 over 1, or just 15. You can also use the calculator on that one. Perfectly fine. All right, we know what x is, but remember they don't want to know what x is. They want to know what is angle E, what is angle F, and what is angle G. I'm going to switch this up. So we know what x is. These are the exact same. I only have to do it once. 4x minus 4. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in 15 minus 4. So we can grab our calculator here. 4 times 15 minus 4 is 56 degrees. So both the bottom, the F and G, have to equal 56 degrees. All right, we have one more left to figure out. So we can either plug it in or add these together and subtract from 180. Remember, if we do both, we're actually checking our math. So let's go ahead and do both. 2x plus 38. I'm going to plug in 15 for x plus 38. And we have 2 times 15 plus 38 equals 68 degrees. So this should be 68 degrees. Now, we could have also found that same answer by saying we know they have to add up to 180 degrees, and we're going to subtract what we already have. We're already using 56 and another 56. So we're using 112 degrees. If I subtract 112 from 180, I should get 68. So we just checked our math just to make sure before we type these in here. Because I know it's a little disappointing when you lose points. So if you make sure you slow down and check your work, that's a good way to make sure or not make sure, but help a little bit on making sure that you won't lose points. Is just go back and check. Do these extra little steps here to make sure that you do, in fact, get the same two answers when you do it both ways. Because that tells you that, okay, I am doing it correctly. All right, we finished week 28.